Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. I want to begin with a reminder for any of you that have missed it, because today's the last day to sign up. Due to the high demand of all you listeners who signed up with switchwithjohn.com, I now need a few of you to join my team and help me with this project. If you're looking for remote work or an additional stream of income, join us tonight at 7 o'clock for a Zoom call to learn all about it. Tonight at 7, again, we will host a Zoom to see if this project may be right for you. You can register at patriotsdirect.com. That's patriots with an S, direct.com. Come find out tonight and register again at patriotsdirect.com. I will be there as well, so I hope we'll look forward to seeing you all in the Zoom. Today's show is going to be a little bit different. Today, I want to take a deep dive into China and how we got to where we are with the CCP. Everything from the manufacturing of the China virus to be used as a bioweapon to our U.S. corporations selling out to the CCP and much more. Today's guest here on the Great America Show predicted 6 months before the China virus was released on the world that China would be doing something like they did, and that it was all to undermine President Trump. Our guest today is author and AI expert Cyrus Parsa. He's the author of the book Artificial Intelligence, Dangers to Humanity, where he laid out months before it happened how the CCP would attack America with COVID. He's also the CEO of the AI organization. Cyrus, thanks so much for being with us today. A lot to talk about. As I mentioned to the audience, you were blowing the whistle as early on as June of 2019 that China may be working on some sort of biological weapon that they may unleash on the world. You then published it. You'd warned the Secret Service. You'd warned the CIA. And then you published a book in October of 2019, months before we knew about what came to be the China virus, COVID-19. Getting to America sometime around January of 2020, some say December of 2019. But nonetheless, you were months ahead of the curve in your book, Artificial Intelligence, Dangers to Humanity. Explain to the audience, if you will, how you came to this conclusion that China was working on something like this and it would be unleashed on the world.
Well, I have an intelligence background and a master's degree in Homeland Security. And I've been researching China for over 20 years. And our surveillance system has picked up something going on in a lab. And I had my people check it. And they said that they were working on a bioweapon. And the intention was to interfere with either our elections or interfere with President Trump or even hit him and knock him out of office so that the Democrats will somehow take over and with big tech and enslave us. And then it would lead to communism. And this kind of was like a futuristic thinking of mine. I analyzed it. And I published that in this book, Artificial Intelligence, Dangers to Humanity. That's exactly what happened in a sense, because COVID, or this bioweapon, which I call in the book an invisible poison that takes a long-term effect to cause organ failure, which describes COVID. It happened just like that. The Democrats took over, and the big tech was used, and the Chinese government lied to us about the origins of COVID. They had made it, and that it was released, and they were letting people come into our country for months afterwards, although they were locking themselves down. So. Yeah, I'm a futurist. I've always been a futurist, and I have a security background.
So this was obviously done with the help of the NIH and Anthony Fauci. Did we know about it here at home? Did Anthony Fauci know that, as we're funding the NIH is funding this Wuhan Institute of Virology, that they're working on something like this?
Of course, because he paid the bill. Of course he knew about it. I don't think he knew that they planned on unleashing it, but he's certainly responsible in funding it, and he's certainly responsible in dealing with a rogue government that's been known to enslave their own people, organ traffic, found out practitioners, Tibetans, Christians, and Uyghurs, and democracy advocates. So if you think about it, Anthony Fauci and people who approved, which was done during, I believe, the Obama administration and so on, they're negligent and complicit in so many different things. How could you allow our bioweapon technology or just gain of function research to be given to a country that's ruled by a communist system that kills its own people, the tens of millions, and enslaves them, and looks at us as a competitor. So I'm not blaming President Xi, by the way. I'm not blaming him. There are factions, like we have the Democratic Party here, the Republican Party. There was a faction under Jiang Zemin, and he's a brutal dictator of communist China. And there was a beef between Jiang Zemin and President Xi, and that lab actually led to Jiang Zemin and his family, in fact. So I believe it was a nefarious purpose behind it, and the Chinese have a long way of thinking. They strategize things and how things can play. So just think about it: biological warfare.
And Cyrus, they're also masters of deception.
Yes. So when the Mongolians invaded Persia and Rome, they wouldn't just massacre the people and kill the dogs and the cats and eat them sometimes. They actually would use biological warfare, just like how the Communist Party used on us. Spread a plague, cause unrest, and cause one side to fight another side, create a polarization, and then take out the king. And in this case, they took out our president. They meant to kill him, and they meant to destroy America.
Yep. I think some people will argue President Trump. I mean, there was a lot of irregularities in the 2020 election. There's no doubt about it. But a lot of people will argue President Trump lost, and I use that in air quotes, the 2020 election because of COVID, and not just the virus, but everything that came with it. The state legislators that changed their voting laws, the mail-in ballots that came with it. It was a massive scheme. The way that they did it, and the way that they could have done it, and all the aspects to it. Most interesting thing, and like I said, China is notoriously known for their deception. According to China's numbers, I think the number was just over 83,000 is what they say died from COVID-19 inside their country, of a population of about 1.5 billion people. Our estimates are that there were somewhere between 970,000 and 1.5 million of their people dead. Here in America, we just had just over 1.2 million people. I just don't know how China can come out with a straight face and say, we only had, 83,000 people die from this thing. You spent a lot of time in China, living there among monks. Can you tell the audience what your experience was like over in living over in the CCP?
Well, I live in the mountains with monks in a monastery, but I'd have to come down once a week to the cities to get supplies. And I noticed that the CCP would persecute people of faith. You see someone meditating, they go beat him up and torture him, throw him in vans. This is the year 2000. I'm like, why are they beating up an old lady and a bunch of females and throwing up in vans while they're meditating in a park or something? And then even house Christians, they were so scared. I just was wondering, why is this going on in China? And I know that they have a big history. And then looking at all the leadership, every government municipal building, it was run by the military and their rogue police departments. Everything was corrupt. So when they tell you 83,000 or 800 or 83,000 people died or whatever, probably like 83 million. You know how many people they were throwing into crematoriums in the bus loads? They were sending buses to pick people up, and the people who came, they have hazmat suits. They would beat these people, drag them, and throw them into crematoriums. So their military is very, very efficient. I would say tens of millions of people died if you count the ones who were killed by China's Communist Party, who were tagged as having COVID, also malnutrition. A lot of cities were locked up, and people didn't have access to food. People were locked up in their homes for months. What do you think happened to them?
Yeah.
So, and this is a country of 1.5 billion people. So you are right, John. The Chinese Communist Party, they're masters at deception. So they deceived the world. And as I put in my book, Artificial Intelligence and Humanity, they meant to have this released, even if it was an accident. They lied about it. There was a plan behind it, and that's what my surveillance caught, and that's what I reported to the Secret Service. I went to the Secret Service and I gave them a 5-page report and said, "Listen, it was June 2019. I said China's working on a bioweapon, and it's an invisible weapon. It's meant to hit President Trump, but he won't know he has it." And it's supposed to go through his White House, hit his staff, and top Republican leaders to shift the tide so liberals get in power, and then China controls the world as they control our big tech. So, and the Secret Service, like, what kind of conspiracy is this? It really wasn't. It happened exactly as I put in my Secret Service report, and it's put in this book. So I'm telling you guys, this was an attack on our country, not by President Xi, by the way, because he's a friend of President Trump, but rogue factions running the Communist Party, and they planned this out. They saw how George Soros, Mark Zuckerberg, and how they can control YouTube and everything else through who, and then manipulate everyone with their.
I want to talk about. We got to take a quick break here, but I do want to talk about that, the role that big tech has played in all of this. And is China working on something else? Did they not see this as successful? Are they working on something else? We're going to take a quick break. We're talking with Cyrus Parsa. We're coming right back. Folks, are you tired of supporting big box stores and multi-billion-dollar corporations that don't support us? Corporations that donate tens of millions of dollars a year to push woke Marxist Dem ideologies? Whether it be Amazon and Jeff Bezos, or Target with their transgender clothing for kids, or even Bud Light going totally woke, enough is enough. Why should we as lovers of this country continue to support these corporations? The answer is we shouldn't. I constantly get people who reach out to me and ask, John, what can we do to save this country? Where can we shop and support American-made brands and conservative ideologies? Well, we now have a solution to stop shopping at these woke companies and stop funding the deep state, and a solution to buy American. This is something we can all do right now to kick the deep state in the teeth and stop funding our enemies and vote with our dollars. We have a parallel economy for around 450 household products. Not only can you cancel woke brands like Procter & Gamble and Johnson & Johnson, you can also cancel the stores that carry them. I need you all to head over to switchwithjohn.com, that's switchwithjohn.com, where you can read all about our movement. We have access to a conservative manufacturer that will replace these brands and the stores you buy them from. It isn't an additional budget item, because instead of turning right into Target or left into Walmart, you're going to shop directly online, directly with the manufacturer. Folks, this is a patriot movement that is happening right now before our eyes. Every 47 seconds, a shopper is switching to our online store, and we need you to partner with us, join us, and band together. I just canceled my Amazon Prime subscription because I've truly had enough. So what do you say? It's time to put your money where your heart is? Join us today and help save this nation. Go to switchwithjohn.com. That's switchwithjohn.com to learn how you can join thousands of other patriots and help take this nation back. switchwithjohn.com. We'll see you there. We're back. We're talking with Cyrus Parsa. Cyrus, social media and big tech have been burdens on society for quite some time now. Some would say even before the 2020 election, but definitely a big part in the 2020 election, whether it be the Hunter Biden story or, as we spoke about before, this COVID. Still to this day, Cyrus, when we put episodes out, and I'm going to be honest, I probably can't put this episode out on our YouTube channel because we have 2 strikes against us for speaking about COVID. It doesn't matter what you say about COVID. YouTube still censors and wants to go against people who talk about anything about COVID. They say it's misinformation, disinformation, whatever. And whenever you reach out to them and ask them, why are you banning us for this? Or they won't answer. They just say you went against our policy guidelines. There's still to this day, we know this virus came out of a lab, the Wuhan lab. We know it didn't come from some anteater out in the Wuhan wet market. We know that China created this disease, and it wasn't from America, as they'd often said over in China that maybe America created it and sent it over there. What do you think, going forward, the role of big tech will play, in America? I mean, do you think some of them, I was reading this morning, Mark Zuckerberg is reportedly now aligned with libertarian ideologies, and he's hired a Republican strategist to try to get him in the good graces of conservative media and personalities. But to be honest with you, I think Mark Zuckerberg has done irreparable damage to this country. How do we even trust this man? everything he did, for the 2020 election, censoring the Hunter Biden story was perhaps one of the biggest ones. And if you ran it out there, you were a conspiracy theorist and you were no good for society. How do we trust these people, Cyrus?
You really don't, because you look at people by their fruits and what they were saying when the times were tough.
Right.
And let me give you an example. How did you guys feel when some of your loved ones either died of COVID or were forced vaccinated or you were locked down against your will? It's America. This is not supposed to happen in our country. We're land of the brave and free, right? So let me tell you something. If President Trump does not win 2024 and does not in power for the next 4 years to change this up, the way I see it, unless a supernatural force takes over, is that our big tech is going to be controlled under a communist platform, just like I put into this book. And later on, China will manipulate our democratic left with their big tech. And everything it will be gone. All your freedoms will be gone. And it will be gone in a different way. So maybe your guns will be taken away a certain way. Maybe there'll be false injustice to your families when you speak out and so on and so on. But here's the thing. They control your mind through this social media, through Instagram, through Facebook, through YouTube, through all the apparatus they have. And what they have is a weapon. What is this weapon? These smartphones are actually a military weapon. So when your kids or just people in general engage with these smartphones, and when they have these 5G and 6G towers hooked up and satellites hooked up, the content that the liberal elites will be putting out as it connects to the Chinese Communist government and our communist dictators and the Democratic left will brainwash the majority of the country.
Cyrus, we already see it now with TikTok. You've got kids that are addicted to TikTok. I go out, I was at a funeral last week, and my cousin's children are sitting there and they're watching these TikTok videos on their iPad and on YouTube. And it's literally, there's a reason why Americans are scoring so low in school. It's a reason why our standardized testing numbers are so down. There's a reason why across the board, the American education system is declining. And it's because of things like that. And the CCP knows exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing when they put this stuff on our devices, because there's a different algorithm, Cyrus, for TikTokers in China. They get educational videos. They get how to build things. They get how to do arithmetic. They get how to do. Here in America, you've got kids doing stupid things, doing tricks, and doing, creating all sorts of chaos. And if that doesn't tell people, throughout this country, what China's ultimate goal is, and you bring up a really good point that if we don't get this under control and President Trump doesn't win, that we are going to end up being a communist nation. I want to read a report out this week. A headline from a report. Top Chinese economist disappears after criticizing dictator Xi Jinping. A Chinese economist, he's the deputy director of the Institute of Economics at the Chinese Academy of Social Studies, disappeared recently after criticizing Xi Jinping's economic policies in a private online group chat. This man was detained after making comments about China's flagging economy and veiled criticism of Xi that referred to his morality on WeChat. Okay, that's over in China. Now, this man disappeared. We'll probably never see or hear from him again. But it's just a small scale on what's happening, a different scale, a little bit bigger scale, I should say, on what's happening here in America, Cyrus. We're being monitored at every single level. I would say there's probably more FBI plants and informants in Republican organizations now than we've ever seen before, trying to figure out how they can catch them on Facebook, setting up operations to catch people doing whatever. We have the FBI showing up at people's doorsteps who showed up to school board meetings for their children. They don't want their children being indoctrinated. We have the FBI showing up there. Yet we have an FBI that doesn't seem to figure out 2 Trump assassination attempts, who these folks are, where they came from, and they couldn't figure out their planning, yet they show up at people's houses who are conservative, posting Facebook messages that are pro-Trump, just to talk. The FBI shows up. They just want to talk. They have to ask a few questions. Well, why wasn't the FBI at the doorstep of Matthew Crooks, who took the first shot at President Trump, or Ryan Root, the second man who traveled from Hawaii to North Carolina to Florida, leaving cookie crumbs all over the floor? Why are they not showing up at their doorstep, Cyrus?
Well, it goes back to the 1950s. The communist Russians infiltrated our education system. So the FBI we had in the 50s and 60s, especially in the 80s and 90s, is no longer the FBI of today, because the new generation of people came in and they were indoctrinated with a lot of Marxist principles. So even their brain chemistries, they watch social media, right? So they're affected by big tech. They're affected by the Democratic Party. And so a lot of, if you think about it, a lot of the FBI agents, in fact, they're a victim too of not just Trump deranged syndrome, but they're a victim of this brainwashing by elite people in the big tech and also in the Democratic Party who are in league with the Chinese Communist Party. So I don't want to blame the agency in general, but for that,
it is the agency. They are 100% complicit in all this, Cyrus.
There are a lot of good people in the agency as well.
Yeah, but Cyrus,
the majority are on the left. That's the issue. The majority are liberal.
Cyrus, it only takes one bad apple, and that's the problem that I think a lot of Americans don't realize is it's one bad apple, Cyrus. And I constantly say on the show, it's like a skunk. If a skunk dies on the 7th floor of a building, we'll use the FBI as an example. If a skunk dies on the 7th floor, Cyrus, it'll smell on the 8th floor, it'll smell on the 9th floor, and it'll smell on the 6th, and it'll smell on the 5th floor. Everyone will know about it. So the whole notion that the rank and file guys, they're the good guys, they don't mean any harm. Well, guess what? The rank and file guys are the ones who are going to these people's houses and knocking on their door, knowing damn well someone showing up at a school board meeting is not a domestic terrorist.
I would say the FBI director is incompetent. And
absolutely.
So you need to have someone that loves their country, that understands what communism and Marxism is, and is really smart and has wisdom. And I don't want to be against the gentleman, but I'm just saying that he's not qualified to have that. And
this is America. This isn't China. You're not going to disappear for going against the status quo. It's this is our right as Americans to speak out against things that we don't think are right.
Look, here's the issue. Even the FBI and the people there, they're in danger of losing their freedoms in the future as well by allowing the Chinese Communist Party to manipulate and brainwash the liberal elites who have turned to communism, who have taken over the Democratic Party and also taken over our big tech. Yeah. So the FBI is actually killing itself by not justly prosecuting the people on the left and missing these assassination attempts against President Trump and missing all these election interference things that happen from not just the CCP, but the left as well. So look, I've been right on everything so far. What did I say? I said, this is the plan, launch a bioweapon, use intelligence services or manipulate them and big tech and locked everyone down, lead to communism, mandated jabs, all in here, and then global wars. And also my first book, it shows is a picture of President Trump coming down, riding a horse of George Washington. It's actually hit George Washington's body, and I put Trump's head on there. And if you separate the liberal hate, the Trump deranged syndrome that they have, I've been right on everything. I'm telling you, in order to save the freedoms of this nation, in order to save the freedoms for your family and even the world and prevent World War III, we have to have President Trump and his infrastructure.
You're not going to get much pushback from me on that, Cyrus. We got to take one more quick break here. When we return, I want to get your take on what's next for China. Are they working on another bioweapon? Potential war with Russia, Iran, or even China? And the threat that President Trump poses to all these elites in these foreign countries that can't stand him and want to keep him out of the White House. The PLA this week launching their first ICBM test since 1980. That should give us all a little chills on the back of our neck because of what's to possibly come if President Trump doesn't win in November. We're talking with Cyrus Parsa. We're coming right back. Stay with us.
A large retail store just canceled a huge order, leaving us with a ton of extra MyPillows. But you know what? That's their loss. I'm going to make it your gain. For the first time ever, you get standard classic MyPillows for wholesale prices, only $14.88. I can't believe I'm even saying that. Only $14.88. But it gets even better. For a limited time, I'm going to offer my entire classic collection at wholesale prices. Upgrade to a queen size MyPillow for just $18.88. King size only $1 more. Get my body pillows for $29.88 and multi-use MyPillows for only $9.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on the screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of wholesale pricing for the first time ever on TV, including my standard size MyPillow, only $14.88. They've never been offered this low before. We have limited quantities at this price, so limit's going to be 10, and once they're gone, they're gone.
We're back. We're talking with Cyrus Parsa. Cyrus, before we went to break, I'd mentioned China launching their first ICBM test missile since 1980. The missile was launched with a dummy warhead. It crashed into the PLA, described it as expected splash zone, the high seas of the Pacific Ocean. What do you think China is getting ready for? I mean, we have conflicts every way you turn, Cyrus. I mean, you look at Russia, it's with Ukraine, which puts us in the middle because we fund Ukraine. You've got Iran, the Biden administration or the Obama administration, I should say, sending them billions of dollars in cash to, I guess, fund their nuclear war program. And then you've got China in the midst of all this, looking to maybe go into Taiwan or the Philippines. Where does that put America?
So the Communist Party doesn't want President Trump in power.
Of course.
The party itself, okay? It does not. And I put out a trailer from godstudios.com. It's called AI Wars Alien Invasion on June 13, 2023. And it's just a sizzle trailer I put out. But at the end of it, I say that the world's in imminent danger from a hypersonic nuclear battle involving China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea against us, the U.S., Israel, Europe, NATO allies. It's a year and a half ago. And it turns out just like that. Everyone starts saying that. So here's the thing. The Chinese Communist Party, they haven't got any wars because they think long term. What they do is they use other countries as a proxy by policy and giving weapons. They gave hypersonic weapons technology to the Iranian regime, okay? And they gave them funding. They gave hypersonic weapons technology to Russia, but also they support Ukraine behind the scenes that you don't know about.
Right.
And then they've helped North Korea as well. So they're hoping that either there is some type of a war that happens that destabilizes our country and Democratic Party comes in, or the Democratic left comes in, they just take over without a war or something, or they'll attack Taiwan. So that's the thing. They've been behind the scenes. And don't think the Chinese Communist Party would not launch their hypersonic or supersonic missiles with nuclear warheads from the submarines to New York, Washington, D.C., or Florida, and our Pacific coast, if Kamala Harris is president.
Well, Cyrus, they wouldn't even have to launch them from China because anyone who's been following this, anyone in the government who's been following this with a brain, and I don't think we have anyone in this government right now with a brain, would realize that China is working with Africa now, right? Yes. They're trying to take over parts of Africa. But that's just the latest because China's been trying to infiltrate places. Well, you have Russia and Cuba, but trying to infiltrate places and successfully doing so, like Honduras, for example, building dams, building all sorts of power supplies for these third world countries, coming in and saying, well, we put all this money into it, so now we kind of own you. For anyone who doesn't realize, Honduras is just south of Mexico, which is just, hundreds of miles or 1,000 miles from the U.S. border. So it wouldn't even take them going from China when they could do it right in our backyard.
But here's the thing. They can use a submarine and they can hit a hypersonic missile to the ocean floor and cause a tidal wave to come up with nuclear blast. Yeah. They can do that. Or they can use, Mexico, Honduras, or different elements. And there are cells that Chinese have in this country that could be activated. They've paid Hezbollah, Hamas, some Iranian cells, a lot of Arab cells, and also Mexican cartels. The Chinese government has been paying them so they can activate them and cause them to terrorize our country. So that's very important. But getting back to China's global
real quick, Cyrus, for anyone who doesn't believe what Cyrus is saying right now, I urge you to go look up what happened. I think it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago in New York, where the FBI, actually doing a good job for one time in coordinates with the NYPD, busting a massive Chinese police state here in New York. They were running their own police department and everything right here in New York under our eyes. I'm sorry, go ahead, Cyrus, and pick up what you were saying.
So the Chinese, I put out about 5 years ago, China's long-term plan, which is an artificial intelligence plan on the Belt and Road Initiative, which means that the Chinese government likes to connect, or wants to, and has been doing it, to connect China through Taiwan, through the Pacific Islands, and then into the Middle East through Afghanistan, through Iran, going to Eastern Europe, Western Europe, and then to Africa, to put up all these 5G, 6G towers and satellite systems, and their long-term, and of course, and control America with soft power by using our big tech people and our universities, so they can mobilize machines in the future. So you won't just have top police. You have a drone show up in your house. You have the military come, and if there's an issue, they can use bodies like WHO or so many different government bodies or NATO to control us. That's what I'm telling you. President Trump and our you want to save your families, not only vote for Trump, you make sure he's in office. I'm telling you, I'm the only guy on the planet who warned of COVID, warned of lockdowns, warned that he's going to get hit by the mandated. The mandate vaccine is going to come in and he's going to get hit by the COVID. It's going to knock him out of office. The Dems will get in power, and then we'll have a nuclear standoff. So I'm telling you, you vote like your lives depend on it, because it does, and even the liberals' lives depend on it. It does.
You know, Cyrus,
the whole billions of lives around the world depend on President Donald Trump being in office, because he knows how to talk to Putin. He knows how to talk to the Israeli leadership. He knows how to talk to Hamas. He knows how to talk to the Iranian regime. He knows how to talk to North Korea to prevent nuclear World War III. But I'm sorry, but Kamala and other people, I don't know her, but billions of lives are at stake. President Trump can save our country and billions of lives by keeping him in power and making sure he's safe.
You know,
that's why I support him. That's why I did everything I did to try to keep him safe.
You'd mentioned the thought of physical warfare, nuclear warfare, and such. A lot of things people don't talk about is China's ability to shut down our power grid. For everyone who doesn't remember, it was maybe about a year ago or so in Texas when they had the ice storms and their windmills were freezing and all that stuff. The chaos that ensued down there was like a third world country in Texas alone. Talk to the audience, if you will, as to something so simple as shutting down the power grid. I mean, our cars, everything that runs on power or has some sort of Chinese-made chip in it, Cyrus, would shut down. I mean, it would essentially shut down this country.
Not only that, did you see what Israel did to a bunch of terrorists in the areas? What could China do to your smartphones, to your power grid system? It can not only disrupt the food chain supply for you to have no food and have no communications and the economy collapse, but they can actually use terrorism to attack your phones and computers and make things blow up into your house. Think about it. So the Chinese Communist Party is very dangerous, but President Trump can make friends with President Xi and prevent that. President Trump can speak.
Well, I don't know if you should make friends with him, but I think you should definitely get him in a corner where he needs him. You'd mentioned these smartphones.
Yes.
There was a period of time where President Trump, I think, got Apple to move some of their production facility out of China and into countries like Vietnam. And you'd pick it up and it would say, on it somewhere, made in Vietnam, designed in California. But I'm starting to see now, and everything I own is Apple. I ordered a brand new Apple computer the other day, Cyrus, or a few weeks ago. Right. And I get the tracking number and it says it's going to be here in 2 weeks. I'm like, how the hell is it 2 weeks from Cupertino, California? Turns out it came right from China, from the warehouse in China, right to my front door. I'm like I said, before you were seeing made in Vietnam and made in other places. right now, all I see is made in China again. So it's like these people reverted back to their old ways. I always say on this show, China's not stealing our intellectual property. We give it to them. When you go over there and you do business with China, you could attest to this, Cyrus, you lived over there. There's no such thing as a private company. There is absolutely no such thing. Every company that's in China is giving China their intellectual property, and China has a say in anything they do. That's a guarantee. There's no doubt about it. Elon Musk, I love the guy to death, but Elon Musk is so tied into China right now because of his batteries for his cars and his chips for his cars. He cannot get out of there. So, if you will, Xi Jinping has him by, what, because he's so tied up in there. Why do these companies, I want to wrap up with this. Why do these companies put so much trust in this country where they do it obviously for cheap labor, right? But there's plenty of other places you can go for cheap labor if you don't want to come in America, which I think it's criminal if you're not to do business here in America and build everything here in America. But for these people who want to go in China and have slave labor, because that's exactly what it is. There's plenty of other countries. Why do these countries like Apple and Tim Cook and these people put so much trust in China? What do they have over them?
It's not a cheap labor. There are friendships in Silicon Valley with a lot of Chinese. Look at Mark Zuckerberg's wife. She's Chinese, right? So there are a lot of Chinese people that come from the factions of Jiang Zemin, the former dictator, Xi, and the elites in China. So a lot of the billionaires and the communist leaders send their sons or their tech personnel to make friends with our big tech leaders. So it's you want to say, how do you disrupt that friendship? How do you prevent that national security threat? Well, don't have them or a Democratic Party in charge of it, and the previous Republicans who were really in bed with the Chinese Communist Party. And you say, why? Well, let's trust them. Well, it's kind of like it would equate to trust a lifelong crackhead to not have crack, not smoke crack, or do crack if you give them crack. They go back to their own ways, right? So that's why I'm saying, I'll repeat this again. You want to save this country? You make sure President Trump is in power. And he will make sure that if we do business with China, it's done with companies and people who don't have slave labor. And we need to push back. And don't hate this country. We need to push back on President Xi. Hey, you've had these concentration camps under the former dictatorship, Jiang Zemin. You kill people for their organs.
We could do a whole other show and a whole other hour on the Uyghurs of what they've done to those people.
Well, actually, it's not mostly the Uyghurs. Mostly the first people, the Falun Dafa people. The second one is the House Christians and Tibetans. The Uyghurs were killed the least because the Chinese wanted Chinese people's organs because they matched better with them. And the Uyghurs were a different, they're a mix of different things. They're a mix of different things. So and there's some things people aren't talking about correctly from China. And I've studied this for over 20 years, especially with David Matus. He's a very famous Jewish attorney, High Benign Council. And he concluded with David Kilgore that I think it was over 1 million organ transplants are unaccounted for. Most 95% linked back to Falun Dafa, the rest to House Christians and so on.
That's a whole other episode of. We'll have to have you back on and talk about the organ business over there. It's truly sad. The hypocrisy and the I guess the humor in this all. Just as we're wrapping up here, I look at my phone. Breaking news, DOJ Inspector General does not deny FBI informants were among the January 6th crowd. It literally just goes to show you, man, this country's going to hell, Cyrus. And if President Trump doesn't get back into office like tomorrow, we're in trouble. The book is Artificial Intelligence, Dangers to Humanity. Cyrus put it out in 2019. We recommend it all to you highly. You can go ahead and get your copies at Amazon, the physical copies or the Kindle copies. Cyrus, we'll talk soon. Thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, everybody, for being with us today. A reminder, due to the high volume of all you listeners who signed up to switchwithjohn.com, I now need a few of you to join my team and help me with this project. If you're looking for remote work or an additional stream of income, join me on a Zoom call tonight at 7 to learn all about it. Like I said, tonight at 7 o'clock, we're going to host this Zoom to see if this project may be right for you. Basic qualifications are that you be at least 18 years of age and you're decent with technology. Register at patriotsdirect.com. That's patriots with an S, direct.com. Every dollar isn't going as far as it used to, so I'm praying this is an answer for some of your prayers. Come find out tonight and register at patriotsdirect.com. I will be there as well, so I look forward to seeing all of you on the Zoom and see if this is the right fit for you. Tonight's the last night to sign up, 7 p.m. tonight. We'll see you there. Be sure to join us back here tomorrow for the Great America Saturday Show as our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. Please be sure to follow me on Twitter at John Fawcett NY. That's John Fawcett NY. And on Truth Social at John Fawcett. Shoot me a tweet. Let me know what you want to hear more of on this show. Guest ideas, pitches, anything like that. You can also email us at info@loudobbs.com. That's info@loudobbs.com. Shoot us a tweet. Shoot us a message. We want to hear from you. We'll see you back here tomorrow. May God bless you. May God bless America. And may God bless the great Lou Dobbs.